At the outset, I would like to thank IMA for inviting me over here for the CME. And I'm going to talk about the autonomic nervous system and our research that we are doing at the Central Research Lab. Quick recapitulation of the theory. Autonomic nervous system, as all of you know, it is a division of the brain, and it's not under control of will. It's a very fast link between brain and viscera. All of you know it's a key controller and integrator, regulator of all the vital functions of the body like circulation, digestion, secretion, motility, metabolism, body temperature, etc. Two subdivisions. Sympathetic, it's all of you know that it's mainly responsible for all the fight and flight responses and is geared towards energy expenditure. The parasympathetic nervous system, mainly we call it as a housekeeping system, and vagus nerve is actually responsible for all those functions, and it is geared towards energy conservation. Usually these two systems, they have opposite effects on internal organs. So if a sympathetic system increases the heart rate, then parasympathetic system deaccelerates the heart rate or it decreases the heart rate. So mainly it's opposing, its effects are opposing on the internal organs. Research studies all over the world, over a period of time, say in last 10 years, have shown that autonomic dysfunction is the major causative link for development of various diseases like obesity, hypertension, anxiety, metabolic syndrome, depression, heart diseases, diabetes, like. And genetic factors, your lifestyle, the stress that we go through and the environmental assaults, they are responsible for developing autonomic dysfunction. So on one side, the autonomic dysfunction occurs because of this genetic, lifestyle, stress and environmental assaults, and this is the main root cause for developing many of these diseases like obesity, hypertension. The stress research, it has shown that the stress mediates its response through this link, PNIE. That is the psycho, neuro, immuno, endocrinology. So all these four links, the stress response is mediated through that. What it means is that your psyche and mind has an effect on autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system in turns have an effect on hormones and the immune system. And all these three links, that is autonomic nervous system, hormones, immune system, all of them, they have an effect on systemic physiology. And you can see over here, there is a bidirectionality in this link. So immune system has an effect on autonomic has an effect on immune, ANS has an effect on hormones, hormone in turn has an effect on ANS, and in turn they have an effect on systemic physiology, and any change in systemic physiology has an effect on autonomic nervous system and the psyche. So this is a bidirectional connectivity among all these three links which connects your brain with the body. Yoga also has shown beneficial effect in all these disorders. Yoga, under the heading of this yoga, you are having yogasanas, meditations and pranayama. So all of them, they have shown effects in metabolic syndrome, diabetes, heart disease, depression, even inflammatory conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome. If you see the picture that I have shown previously, autonomic dysfunction associated with all these diseases, and yoga also have shown benefits in all these diseases. So there must be some link that yoga is acting through the autonomic nervous system, and there are various studies, there are pointers which are indicating that yoga has a beneficial effect on the body through the autonomic nervous system. Now, how that happens, at what levels yoga works, and how it affects the autonomic nervous system. As Dr. Phadke already mentioned, that Ashtanga Yoga is a structured experimentation with the brain, different brain areas. So all your yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dhyana, dhyan, samadhi, they are acting on different brain areas, specifically the cerebral cortex and the limbic areas, and through that they are having effect on the autonomic nervous system, on the hormonal system, immune system, and through this link they are having effect on the system physiology. So yoga, by having effects on the CNS and ANS, has an effect on the systemic physiology. And in the previous slide I have already shown that autonomic nervous system is linked with the immune system as well as with the hormonal system. There is a bidirectionality between these two systems, between these three systems. So once the ANS is modulated, they also modulate the hormonal system, they also modulate the immune system, and thereby combined effect you can get on a systemic physiology. So through the modulation of ANS, you can have a effect in the inflammatory conditions also, because ANS modulates the immune system and ANS also modulates the hormones, and therefore you can have a effect in the endocrinological disorders also. So this is what the main link which yoga research also has come up with, that PNIE could be the link for the beneficial effects of the yoga. And out of that PNIE, it is the autonomic nervous system which the yoga targets. So at different levels, at CNS level, there are various studies. I will just show you the examples of that they have shown neuroplasticity, neuromodulation, changes in the neurotransmitter levels, which actually affects the anatomy and functionality of the brain, different brain areas. Modulation of ANS, modulation of hormones. As Sir has asked this question, there are recent studies which have shown a rapid global gene expression changes, specifically on a WBCs. So they have shown that even a 14-day or 1 day or 2 sessions of yoga has an effect on this modulation, global gene expressions. But whether they have just given a link, but whether this is actually responsible for getting beneficial effect is not been studied. They have found out this mechanism of action, that yoga can affect the gene expression. We need lot of studies to prove that all the benefits of yoga is through the this pathway. But right now what we are having in our hand is that it is the PNIE, which is the main target. Then this is interesting study which recently has been come up, is the expression levels of parasympathetic nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. The receptor alpha 7 ACH receptors. These are the receptors which are being found on the WBCs. And all of you know that the parasympathetic system, it works through this receptor. So this is how there is a link between the autonomic nervous system through this receptor to modulate the immune system. Because you are having, these are the latest findings that we have got in our autonomic research, that the vagus via modulating the functioning of monocyte can have an effect on the immunity and the inflammatory disorders. Because in many studies of inflammation, it is being observed that it is the vagal withdrawal, decrease in the functioning of vagus, it leads to inflammation. And in rheumatoid arthritis, this is one of the one of the cause that has been recently been published, that it is the because of the decrement in the vagal effect, you are having this pro-inflammatory state in the body, because vagus has an effect on this receptor, thereby modulating the functioning of monocytes. So PNIE also acts, the yoga also acts through this PNIE axis. In nutshell, yoga has an effect on autonomic nervous system. These are the various studies which have been published. One important neurotransmitter at a CNS level that is affected by yoga is the GABA, thalamic GABA levels. So this study has shown pre and post sessions of yoga, with the pre and post session, that there is increase in thalamic GABA after doing yoga. All of you know this is what is the difference between the exercise and yoga. Exercise has shown to increase the endorphin levels, while the GABA, yoga has shown to increase the GABA. All of you know that GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So more of the calming effect of the brain that you get is because of the increase. And thalamic GABA, all of you know that the thalamus is the sensory relay station. So if the GABA levels increase over there, it will control whatever the sensations that are going in the brain from the periphery. So that's a very huge role that has been shown. Then this fellow also compared the yoga with walking, and 12 weeks of study, it has shown that it is only in the yoga that the GABA levels is increased and not in the walking. So this is a very interesting study which has been just published in 2010, where the effect of yoga is directly been compared with the walking, and the GABA increases only in yoga. These are the studies which are being conducted in Niemann's. Our colleagues, they are doing research over there, where they have shown the neuroplasticity in depression, in the patients of depression who are practicing yoga. And what they have shown is that there is increase in levels of BDNF. BDNF is a brain-derived neurotropic factor. So this is also one of the mechanisms through which the modulation, the plasticity, neuroplasticity is developed by doing yoga. That it increases the BDNF level, and BDNF, you know, it is important for making new synapses. So it's like a brain fertilizer. So yoga has shown to increase the BDNF. Another study, it has shown that there is drop in cortisol level, and it is correlated with the increase in BDNF. So on one side there is increase in BDNF, on other side there is decrease in cortisol, and thereby it helps in yoga is showing beneficial effect in depression. One of the study by the same group, they have also shown that there is increase in this cuddle hormone, oxytocin. All of you know that it's a bonding hormone, and they have studied it in schizophrenia. They have given schizophrenics this yoga sessions, and they have observed that there is increase in oxytocin level after yoga sessions. These are the fMRI studies which have shown the beneficial effects of yoga. They have shown that yoga is able to activate mirror neurons. Mirror neuron activation in schizophrenia. So definitely this is one of another mechanism by which yoga has an effect on the beneficial effect. So these are the CNS effects. Mainly the CNS effect, where you are having effect on neurotransmitter, effect on BDNF, effect on new synapse formation, and through that, through the CNS effect, you are having a modulatory effect on ANS. Now I will directly come to what we are doing. Autonomic nervous system, It is the subject matter of our work. In our institute, we are doing HRV research in different fields like diabetes, high-risk pregnancy, heart disease, neonatal sepsis, ANS in health, and in yoga. Now, this HRV, it is one, you can say it's a very important marker of cardiac autonomic activity. It is very simple to measure. It's non-invasive, and due to advances in technology, now we have a better facility to measure this HRV even when the person is doing activity. Otherwise, previously, all the research that has been done, what we called as a outcome research, where we used to measure the parameters at the baseline level, then the person is trained for say 3 months, 4 months, and after that, after 4 months of training, we again measure the parameters and what exactly the difference that you get between the say blood sugar pre and post, blood pressure pre and post. So these are called as outcome studies, and what we are doing because of this technological advancement is a during study, process study. So when the person is actually performing that activity, what is happening to the autonomic nervous system at that time. So we get an idea that when you are in a particular pose or when you are doing pranayam, how exactly the system reacts at that time. This is what is the method that is always used in exercise physiology. All the exercise studies are done when the person is actually doing the exercise. And from that you get an idea about the acute effects of exercise on these systems. So similarly, with this techniques, with this parameter, we are testing the yogasana. We are testing these parameters when the subject is actually doing the yogasana. So what this measure is, it is HRV is a non-invasive, convenient test where ECG is recorded at a high sampling speed, about 1 kilohertz. The samples are collected at a speed of 1 kilohertz. All of you know that normal ECG is recorded at 128 sampling rate, 128 samples per second, or maximally 256. But for HRV, you need an instrument which actually acquires the signal at a very, very high speed. HRV is measured, and then mathematically you measure all the indices in a time series, by time series, frequency domain, and nonlinear methods. The HRV indices provides the status of sympathetic and parasympathetic influence on the heart. This is how actually we measure that. You record the ECG and then you measure the oscillations between the two beats, and these oscillations, then you do mathematical computations on that and you get the HRV parameters or indices, which will give you idea that at that moment which system is predominant, whether it is the parasympathetic or sympathetic. I will go quickly through this, that what is the signature of health, say autonomic health. Normally, previously we used to say our students that it is the regularity that is a sign of health. But after this, Goldberger in a period of 1980 to 1990, what he has shown that it is the variability in a system that is a sign of health. I have just shown you the picture that on this side, on the left side, you can see that in a normal person, beat to beat variation you can see, while in a diabetic person you can see that variability is almost lost. So the sign of health is having a good variability. Healthy variability is termed chaos in nonlinear dynamics. These are some technical terms. And being in a zone, all of you know is that we teach that there should be a physiological range in which the parameters should lie. That is called as a zone. And variability in zone is good. Too much of variations, that is randomness, or too much of determinism, loss of variability. Both of them, they are not good for the health. And reduced variability is seen in many of these diseases. So reduction in variability in these diseases also confirms that there is autonomic dysfunction that is there in all these diseases. And therefore, HRV is also recommended in the clinical use. And recently, American Diabetic Association and ICMR in their diabetic guidelines, they have suggested that the HRV should be considered to assess the autonomic dysfunction in diabetes and in other diseases. So this is what you can see, the variation, this variability in a normal person, and you can see on that side reduced variability in a diabetic. Then second important thing of our research that we have done is the presence of endogenous ANS rhythm. It is also a sign of health. All of you know that sympathetic system, it predominates during day while parasympathetic system predominates during night. And if this variation is lost, then the chances of getting disease is high. A very important theory that has been put forward, it's a neuroadrenergic hypothesis of hypertension by Grassi et al. That has highlighted that general sympathetic overdrive is a common underlying mechanism for development of all these diseases. So if the sympathetic drive, it continues even in night, so there is that means there is no upsurge or no parasympathetic nervous system is not dominating in the night, then the person is prone to get disease. And progressive increase in sympathetic overdrive, it actually causes conversion of disease from mild to moderate to severity. What we are doing is this process research to explore the uniqueness, to explore the acute and training effect, evidence-based interventions, and the theoretical framework is Ashtanga Yoga and neuroscience. Now you can see over here, what we have done is that when a person is actually doing asana, the recording of HRV was made. It's a multi-parametric ambulatory recording device. And we have subjected the individual into different postures. We have also simultaneously compared the head-on comparison between the same individual when the person is doing aerobic exercise and the person is doing yoga, so that you will get an idea that whatever yoga that you are doing, how much energy consumption is there. Because if your energy consumption is different, you cannot match the yoga with exercise. So what we have done is that when the individual was doing yogasana, at that time we have monitored the heart rate and we asked the individual to do the exercise at the same heart rate. So there will be similar energy expenditure. So when the person is doing exercise, when the person is doing yoga, in both the situations the heart rate was maintained at the same level, and then we have seen the effect on autonomic modulation, that what is the effect of exercise at that time on our autonomic modulation and what is the effect of yoga. Because we are interested to see that uniqueness, whether there is any uniqueness. If the yoga is going to produce the same kind of effect as that of the exercise, then whether you do the exercise or yoga, it is immaterial. Both of them, they are going to give you same kind of results. That's why these comparisons were done. So the same person is doing the, you have seen that exercise and the yoga. Then we have also tried to compare the effect of training. So modified yogasana we have given to yoga naive individual, and during that time we have done the recording, and then their effect is compared with the persons who are regular yoga practitioners. So is there any difference in the autonomic modulation when the person is a naive and a trained person? So these are a few studies that we have conducted, and this is what the result that we have got. we have published, we have actually presented this in Indian Science Congress also. You can see over here that in different, these are the different yogasanas that the person has performed, and we have observed differential modulation of sympathetic and parasympathetic during different yoga poses. What it means is that all yogasanas don't generate the parasympathetic response. There are few yogasanas which generate the sympathetic response and few yogasana which generates the parasympathetic response. So this is what, when we have to use yogasana in therapeutics, we have to know that in this individual how these yogasana are going to produce the effects. So that's why you can see the LF and HF, they are indices of sympathetic and parasympathetic. LF means sympathetic, HF is parasympathetic. In Tadasana, you can see that there is increase in sympathetic, while exactly opposite effect you get during Shirshasana and Sarvangasana, where in action there is a generation of parasympathetic. So Tadasana, standing asana, they favor more of sympathetic system, while the inverted asanas, they favor more of modulation of parasympathetic. And this is what you need, that if you have a person who is having sympathetic overdrive, you know that what kind of asana can be given to the person. And we have observed these three patterns, and what I say is that Tadasana, it almost have the similar pattern which is generated by any other exercise. So whether you are doing aerobic exercise, whether you are doing resistance training, swimming, whatever activity that you do, there is sympathetic stimulation and increase in heart rate. And Tadasana also produce the same kind. The paradox, which is very unique and novel, is that is seen in the pattern second and third, specifically in Sarvangasana and Shirshasana. And what that paradox is, that on one side there is a parasympathetic augmentation while there is increase in heart rate. So increase in heart rate with parasympathetic augmentation is what is the physiological paradox that you see in the, and from that we are very curious that why we are getting this kind of paradoxes which you don't see in exercise. There must be something which is happening at the level of ANS training, because this effect we have observed only in trained person. We have not observed this effect in the yoga naive individuals who has been given the modified asanas even with the head down position. Because for measurement of this HRV, you have to hold that pose for minimum of 5 minutes. This is the technical requirement. So all the asanas has to be maintained for 5 minutes, and then you can do this study. So modified asanas are also held by the students for 5 minutes. And then we have compared. In students in any posture, you don't get this kind of pattern where there is a parasympathetic augmentation with increase in heart rate. And I think that this, what we call it as that ANS learns to resolve the circulatory conflict. Why this mechanism is important? Because all of you know, when you are in head down position, the blood is sucked towards the heart. So there is engorgement in the heart and the blood has to be pumped out of the heart. Therefore, the normal autonomic reflexes which are been working, they have to be modified in order to maintain and in order to generate such kind of autonomic response. I think this is what work that we are doing. I will just go through this, in pranayama, this is what is the link, the cardiorespiratory link, where all of you know that the respiratory center has an effect on autonomic centers which are there in the medulla, and through this link you get the effects in pranayama. One simple protocol that we have done, the experimentation that we have done, we just ask the individuals to observe their breath, and we have recorded the measurement in the same posture. in a lying down posture, we have done the measurement. So pre, then during breath observation, and post breath observation. And what we have observed, again, there is a differential modulation in this guy, a differential pattern, where in few group of people you have a sympathetic system augmentation, and in few there is a parasympathetic. And there are research that is going on in a psychology field, where they have shown that with this kind of experimentation, if the individual is able to generate the parasympathetic, the person will be more compliant with the treatment. So they are using for this purpose. So the take home message is that ANS is an important link between mind and body. ANS dysfunction is an important contributor for development of diseases and disorders. Yoga mediates its beneficial effect through ANS modulation. Novel patterns of ANS reactivity in yogas are observed, and ANS assessment is crucial for evidence-based therapeutics. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.